After weeks of speculation, Nintendo recently revealed their newest classic game collection for the Switch, the Nintendo World Championships NES Edition. It's a brand new compilation featuring 13 different 8-bit games and more than 150 mini-game challenges that can be played solo or with friends. And that's not all, because if you pre-order the physical version, you'll also get a reproduction cartridge of the original Nintendo Entertainment System game. How cool is that? Actually, it's not. In fact, I'm going to make the argument that the Nintendo World Championships NES Edition is, at best, a massive disappointment. Is this new game lying to you? Let's find out. Before we dive into the upcoming Switch game, let's first go back to 1990. This was a time when the Nintendo Entertainment System was still dominating the market and the world couldn't get enough of a certain Italian plumber with a penchant for saving princesses. In fact, Mario was so popular that just 1 year earlier, Hollywood had turned the hotly anticipated Super Mario Bros. 3 into the e-sport event of the year in the Fred Savage movie The Wizard. While Roger Ebert may have panned the film, Nintendo was taking notes and secretly crafting their own video game tournament that could double as a year-long celebration of the company and their 8-bit system. The result was the Nintendo World Championships 1990, a touring event that managed to hit 29 cities across the United States. These were day-long affairs that would allow attendees to not only compete for valuable prizes, but also sample new and upcoming games from companies like Capcom, Konami, Bandai, Hudson Soft, Data East, Tecmo, and Sunsoft. This was also an opportunity for die-hard fans to meet Howard Phillips, who was Nintendo's real-world face at the time and inspired the Nintendo Power comic Howard and Nestor. At a time when video games were still struggling to be taken seriously by the mainstream media, this was about as close as you could get to going to a real video game convention. While the game stations with upcoming releases took up most of the floor space, this was, after all, the Nintendo World Championships, and gamers came from all over the world to compete. This would happen in the arena, where Nintendo had a bunch of machines lined up, playing special triathlon cartridges that were made specifically for this 1990 event. Here is how Nintendo explained it. To get through this video game obstacle course, you'll have to collect 50 coins in Super Mario Bros. To advance to the Rad Racer segment, where you'll need to complete a course to go on to Tetris. Points will add to your overall score, as will speed, and you'll only have 8 minutes total playing time. Now, the first thing you may have noticed is that Super Mario Bros., Rad Racer, and Tetris are 3 single-player games. I mean, yes, a couple of them have a multiplayer component, but you're never actually directly playing against another person in this competition. The goal was to collect the coins and then win the race as fast as possible, leaving you enough time to really rack up points in Tetris. While the selections may seem a little odd all these years later, it actually was a pretty fair representation of what you could get on the Nintendo Entertainment System. You got an iconic platformer, an arcade-style racer, and the hot new puzzle game that was more or less exclusive to the Nintendo consoles. As the event wound down, Nintendo would take the top scorers in 3 different age groups and then have the best players compete against each other on the main stage. Each city would then crown 3 different winners, who would then go on to compete in the World Finals at Universal Studios in Los Angeles for a chance to win a $10,000 US savings bond, a 1990 Geo Metro convertible, a 40-inch rear-projected television, and even a gold-plated Mario trophy. Runners-up would receive a $1,000 savings bond and a Silver Mario trophy, while semifinalists went home with $50 in Nintendo cash. The real prize, however, turned out to be a copy of the Nintendo World Championships cartridge that allowed you to replay the triathlon as many times as you wanted. If you were one of the finalists, you received a gray cartridge. However, there's also a gold variation that Nintendo Power gave away as a prize. In total, there are only a few dozen of these cartridges currently available, and who knows how many of them are still in working condition. Due to its rareness, the Nintendo World Championships 1990 cartridge is seen as the holy grail of video game collecting, selling at auction houses for anywhere from $13,000 all the way up to $20,000. Yeah, it's the kind of thing that most gamers can only dream about owning. And that brings us back to the recent announcement of the Nintendo World Championships NES Edition. As somebody with no interest in spending tens of thousands of dollars on a game, I long ago resigned myself to the knowledge that I would never actually own this insanely rare cartridge. But wait a second, what's this? Nintendo is planning on releasing the Nintendo World Championships game? Is this the re-release we've all been waiting for? Nope, the whole thing is a giant lie. Let's start with the obvious. This new version of the Nintendo World Championships doesn't actually feature the Nintendo World Championships game from 1990. This is not a port of the 8-minute triathlon where you jump between Mario, Rad Racer, and Tetris. Hell, 2 of those games don't even appear in this package. Instead, what you get are 150 minigame challenges that are spread around 13 different Nintendo Entertainment System games, including Balloon Fight, Donkey Kong, Kid Icarus, Metroid, Legend of Zelda, and 4 different Super Mario Bros. Titles. Based on the trailer, the challenges seem to revolve around completing simple tasks like finding an exit in Metroid or defeating a certain amount of enemies in The Legend of Zelda. Honestly, that's not all that different from what you did in the 1990 game, where the goal was to collect 50 coins and win a race. As a concept, I'm actually not that opposed to this idea. I mean, it seems painfully similar to the 2 NES remix games that Nintendo released on the Wii U, which were both well received for the most part. I love the idea of giving people a new way to experience these classic 8-bit games. And you know what? If that means turning them into a bunch of multiplayer races and adding online leaderboards, then I'm all for it. The only problem is that there are certain expectations when you use the name Nintendo World Championships. And I can't help but feel like you're trying to cash in on the history without actually giving the fans what they really want. Now, you could argue that they aren't actually selling this as the Nintendo World Championships 1990, so it's too much to expect a direct port of a game that was never released. However, I'm going to push back and point directly to what comes in the physical collector's edition. The trailer highlights the replica NES cartridge that comes in the box. It's specifically designed to look like the gold-plated cartridge from 1990 that is currently selling for like $20,000. Nintendo sees the market, they understand what's going on, and they're willing to give you something that looks an awful lot like the holy grail of video game collecting, but they refuse to go all the way and actually give us the game that was on that rare cartridge. The whole thing's just a giant tease. And then there's the fact that only one of the 3 Nintendo World Championship games is represented in this package. It's like going to see your favorite band in concert, only to discover that the drummer is the last original member. I mean, look, the new musicians may get the job done, but let's be honest here, it's not the same. Rad Racer and Tetris play an important role in the Nintendo World Championships. So, honestly, it's disappointing to see them dropped in favor of Ice Climbers and Balloon Fight. It's especially frustrating when you realize that neither of these games is readily available on the Switch or any modern console. This would have been the perfect moment to throw the spotlight on Rad Racer and show that it's not only a great game, but one of the most important titles of the 8-bit era. This is just a big missed opportunity, and I don't think it had to be. Go ahead and make your NES remix style minigame collection with all these different games. But also, and this is the important part, include the original Nintendo World Championships game. Honestly, is that too much to ask? It's been more than 3 decades. If Nintendo actually wants us to stop illegally emulating their games, then make them available for everybody. It's that simple. Hey, thanks for watching whatever that was. If you liked what you saw here, then you should know that we post new reviews and features almost every day. Now, here's the question I have for you. Are you actually excited for the Nintendo World Championships NES Edition? Will you buy it? Let me see your thoughts in the comments below. In other news, we'll be back next week with more reviews and a lot more fun. Oh, and don't forget that we're gearing up for the debut of Sega Power's Top 200 Master System games. While you wait for that, I strongly recommend you click that subscribe button and support what we're doing here. Until then,